You want to go next? Go to Mars, dude.
What's up, listener? My name's Dan, and welcome to the Book Report here on the Random Media Guys channel. Now, the Book Report is the show where we talk about books, science fiction, fantasy, regular fiction, things that interested me. I thought these books were good. Maybe you'll think they're good too. So, are you ready for something? For the month of March 2017, we're doing a Mars theme. Yes, Mars March. Everything about the red planet, Sol 4, fourth planet from the sun. Everything, that red dot in the sky. So, for the month, the first book on our Mars March is a book that actually has quite a history. It was pretty influential in the hippie movement, believe it or not. And you'll see why. This book I'm talking about is Stranger in a Strange Land by Robert A. Heinlein. Oh, yeah, Dan, you like Robert Heinlein. Yes, but I like kind of some of his works. So sue me. This will probably be the last book of Heinlein's for a while. Anyway, let's get started on Stranger in a Strange Land. So the book follows Valentine Michael Smith. For this discussion, we're just going to call him Mike. That's what the book does. So Mike is actually quite an interesting guy. He's the son of two astronauts from the first expedition to Mars. Now, what had happened is this expedition went to Mars, and there was loss of contact. Now, the reason why they didn't send a group to go back was apparently that a war broke out. And so when they finally sent a mission back about 25 years later, the mission finds out three things. So the second mission finds out, A, Mars is inhabited, B, the original crew died on the mission, and 3, Mike is a survivor. Apparently the Martians decided, hey, there's this, naked ape, we're going to take him in and raise him. So, because of that, Mike has kind of a different way of thinking, and he has certain talents that will come up later on. So, Mike's brought back to Earth by the second expedition, and Mike kind of becomes a celebrity because, it's the first guy born on Mars. And so he's brought to a hospital mainly because the fact is he grew up on Mars, and Mars has like 40% of Earth's gravity. So he's like held up in a waterbed for a while. They're monitoring him. He seems to keep going to a catatonic state every once in a while. Apparently, later on, we find out that's some sort of Martian, like, self-defense. It's kind of a way of retreating yourself. So, while he's at this hospital, we get to meet our second, I guess your second kind of main character, or very high supporting character. Her name's Jillian. Now, we'll call her Jill. Now, Jill's a nurse at the hospital, and she's heard about all this stuff about Mike, and one night she says, hey, I'm going to sneak in and see this guy from Mars. When she meets him, he's kind of just enamored because he's never seen women before. So he's chatting to what you can because his English isn't very good. Eventually what happens is she asks him if he wants some water to drink, because she's thirsty. And what she doesn't realize is that on Mars, since water is so scarce, sharing water is considered a sacred tradition. It's a symbol of brotherhood. It's a symbol of bonding, kinship. And what happens later on in the story, we learn that anybody who kind of shares water with Mike, he considers it as a form of kinship. Kind of like when you share booze with people. So Jill goes and talks to a friend of hers. His name's Ben Caston. Now, Caston is a journalist. A real journalist, not like modern days with all this fake news, but he's an investigative journalist. And they're talking at a dinner, and they're watching, and there's a news report. Apparently, the Mike is with the president of the Federation of Nations, which is kind of like a super UN, but if the UN actually had any governing powers. So they're giving this interview, and Jill's like, that's not right. That's not Mike. I mean, he may look like him, but I've seen him. This is not him. So Captain's like, maybe I should go investigate. So he starts investigating. He ends up talking to one of the undersecretaries of the president, who is kind of a dick. I mean, it's bureaucracy. You know how it works. So as he's investigating, he's basically disappeared, like by like the CIA for a while, or FBI. I don't know what the hell it was, by some federal agents. So what happens is Jill gets kind of spooked. She says, "Well, we got to get Mike out of here. I mean, I'm afraid they're gonna have to be there to lock him away." So she dresses him up as a nurse to escape. Now, this is not your like Scrubs nurse. This isn't like, blue and short. This is like 1960s nurse. I'm talking the white hat, the leggings, and the white blouse. So they basically they escape drag. So they get to Caxton's house, and it turns out they're Fed agents waiting, and they got guns. So it turns out is that at this point, Mike reveals he has some gifts. He has the ability to like, he's got superpowers, mainly from just straight up understanding the universe. So what happens is the feds come at him and Jill, and he disappears them. Like he sends them out of into non-existence. Now this freaks out Jill. I mean, because this guy just sent a guy out of existence, and he basically drops back into his comatose. So Jill takes Mike to a friend of Caxton's, whose name is Jewel Harshaw. Now, Jewel's a lawyer, doctor, and he's also a famous author. I know. So anyway, Jubal actually lives up in the Poconos in Pennsylvania. That's kind of the reason why they went there, because it's out of the way. They won't have to worry about the feds as much. So Jubal begins speaking with Mike and kind of becomes a father for him. And what's kind of interesting is Jubal really likes his interaction with Mike. He's learning about Mars, about the concepts of Mars, while Mike's learning about Earth and humanity. Now, Mike's still kind of very naive. He doesn't quite see everything as they're, he didn't grow up in our culture. So while they're there, they're working on trying to find a way to get Mike his right as a citizen, because the government sees him as a warless state. So eventually they convince when talking with they get the president in a big meeting, like a big news, say, okay, come on, let him go free, and Mike will give you some of the money he has. What happened was when one of Mike's parents invented a new type of propulsion engine called the Lyle drive, and he owned a shit ton of money. So they say, okay, you let him, you basically write it off so he's a citizen of Earth, and you can be the the supervisor. The president's like, that's not a bad idea. So Mike gets to go free. This is where we get into the more esoteric. See, while Mike's been up at Jubal, she's been watching TV, a lot of TV, and he stumbled upon religious TV. Mainly, there's a big group called the Fosterites. Now, this is this religion reminds me a lot of a thing. It's like Mormonism mixed with It's got the kind of the fervor of evangelicals, the kind of political pull also of Mormonism and Catholicism, but they're also very extreme. They write a lot. It kind of reminds me of many ways of the Islamist extremists at times. They can be very brutal. Mike asked, "Hey, I want to check out this Fosterite church." So they go. It's very hedonist. Basically, everything goes. It turns out that the Reverend Foster, who the original founder, ascended to heaven somehow. But we find out maybe he was murdered. And eventually, after this, Mike decides, you know what? I want to go kind of on a walkabout. So him and Jill, who got really close, especially with the fact they're water brothers, go on kind of a road trip. Mike becomes a magician because he's got telekinesis, he's got, disappearing. The fun part is people think it's like legitimately. Like, there's a scene where a kid's like, you see, he keeps it. He's going, I'm legitimately doing this stuff. Why the fuck doing? Are they impressed? So eventually, Mike decides, you know what, this kind of sucks. Maybe I should settle down. So he starts going back in his interest in religion, and he realizes they don't all quite get. They all have pieces of it. They're almost. So he decides, fuck it, I'm gonna found a religion. It's called the Church of All Worlds. Now, what this thing is basically, it's like a mashup of Buddhism. It's got some of that Fosterite stuff in there. It's got all like the good stuff. And the idea is that because he's so rich, why not start a religion? So he's part of his teachings. He begins teaching people about the powers of the Martian language. So the Martian language apparently allows you to, they call grok. They explained this a little bit earlier. Now, grok is like ultimate understanding of something. When someone says you grok, that means like, yeah, I get it fully. There's also kind of a hidden thing saying, thou art God, which basically means you are your own God. And because of this, because the world of all churches has become very popular, it pisses off the Fosterites. And they start leading basically a violent demonstration in front of the Church of All Worlds. So Mike basically says, you know what, everyone, be fine, escape. I'll take care of this. He reappears in front of all the people there, and he's like, thou art God. And he's like, hello. And everyone basically like starts attacking him. It's a violent mob. Now, here's the thing: is the Fosterites have a lot of political power, so they kind of get away with it. It kind of reminds you of how people are afraid now to deal with like Islamic attacks because they don't want to be seen as racist. Imagine if you had a crazy Christian cult that basically had a lot of. That's the kind of thing. So they start throwing bricks at him. They break his face, and then somebody throws gasoline on him and burns him. And it turns out Mike wanted to see Martians when they reach a certain level of cognition. They disincorporate. Basically, they willingly die and they ascend. They become like godlike. And it turns out that Mike was like, okay, it's time for me to go. And it's kind of fun. At the end, you find out that Mike actually might have been the Archangel Michael. Anyway, before that, Jubal is fucking heartbroken because this was someone who he saw the sun. He's about to commit suicide, and Mike's spirit comes down and says, no, don't do it, Jubal. They need you. So they go, you know what? Let's start this up again. And the story ends when we find out again Mike is actually Michael the Archangel. Now, I found this book again really kind of very interesting thing. There's a lot of stuff in there. There's communal living and all stuff. So it's a very cool kind of book to check out. It's a little confusing, but it's worth reading, especially if you want to understand where kind of the hippies come from. There's stories about Highland lived in Colorado, of hippies coming up and asking for autographs. And this is a guy who was very into the military, so it was kind of weird for him. Anyway, that's it for my review of Stranger in a Strange Land by Robert A. Heinlein. Thank you everyone for watching the video. Remember to like and subscribe. Check out other video by me and Chris and everyone else who's on this channel. And check out the other book reports. We'll be doing some more Mars ones starting next week. My name's Dan from Random Media Guys, and you have yourself a wonderful day. Peace.